Hello everyone, it's Alexandra. Welcome back. My today's video is for the LLLC design team, and today I would like to show you how to create the pop-up card that I have right here. I have posted this on my blog as well. I will include the link to it in the description box down below in case you want to take a closer look at this card. Today I'm going to create the same structure of the card, even the same dies will be used on my card, but I will just use some other papers, and the kittens will stay still the main heroes on my today's card. I am not using any dies for creating the base shape of the pop-up card, and I will just give you the measurements for the papers and explain how the paper needs to be folded in order to get this shape. For embellishing the card, I will use some of the dies from lalandcrafts, and they include this retro TV die, this knit and crochet die, this retro lamp die, and this is the popcorn die that I will use to modify the retro lamp in order to create a shorter lamp for my card. As far as the papers are concerned, I will use the papers, and we really don't need a lot. I will use the set which is called Life Documented, and as I have already mentioned before, the cats are from the Knit Happens stamp set by lalandcrafts. So if you're ready, let's begin. The main papers that you're going to need are two of the pieces that I have here, and these measure 4 1/4 by 5 3/8. Each one of them is scored on the short side at 1/2 inch, 1 3/4, and 3 inches. So I will set these aside for now. We will get back to them later. Then you will also need two identical pieces. Each one of those measures 2 inches wide by 6 7/8 long. And on the short side, it is scored at 1 1/2 inch. And then on the long side, you will score it at 1 3/4, 4 3/4, and 6 1/2. We'll get back to two of these pieces later as well. Then one more piece of paper that you're going to need will measure 3 1/2 inches wide by 6 1/2 inches long. And on the long side, you will score it at 1 3/4, and then at 4 3/4. And last but not least, you will need 3 more pieces of paper, and each one of those will measure 3 inches long by 2 1/8 of an inch wide. On the short side, you will score it at 1/2 inch and 1 3/4, and then on the long side, you will score it really lightly at 1 inch and 2 inches. As far as the decorative paper is concerned, you will need one piece that measures 2 7/8 by 3 3/8. Two additional pieces, both of them will measure 1 5/8 by 3 3/8. Then 2 more that will be glued down here and on the back side of the card base. So both of these papers will measure 2 7/8 by 1 3/8. And then 4 last pieces of decorative paper. Each one of those will measure 1 3/8 by 1 5/8, and these will be glued down here. You might have seen that I had a few more measurements on some of the cardstock pieces that I showed you before, and I want to start from this piece right here. I remind you that the overall measurement of this piece is 4 1/4 by 5 3/8, and you will see that we have a 1/2 inch flap that will be at the bottom. You will create a tick line with your pencil 1 3/4 of an inch away from both left and right bottom corners of this card piece. You will also create tick marks with your pencil 1 1/4 inch away from the left and right corners at the top of the same cardstock piece. There is also a marked place right here for the slit that we're going to create. To have the slit positioned the way we need it to be, you're going to use the template that measures 1 1/4 by 5 3/8. And as a matter of fact, I cut a piece of just printing paper of that size. I folded it in half like that, and also like that. Now we have the middle at the intersection of those lines, and then I will use my ruler to create some to create a line that will go 1/2 inch away from the center to the left and 1/2 inch away from the center to the right. So this is what we're going to have, and basically that's the size of the slit that we need to create on our cardstock piece that will serve as a base of our pop-up. To cut the slit, you will just move your ruler a little bit away to one side of that line, and then you will do the same on the opposite side. So you will have this, and I will use it, I will just keep this as a template because that's not the first card that I'm creating, so I'm sure I will create more because it's a fun structure, and this is a template that is nice to have on the side, just so that you will not have to get back to it and create another and create a new one every time you're making this card. So this template is rather handy. So I will use the template and just put it on top of my cardstock piece, on top of this section right here, which is close to the 1/2 inch flap, and I will trace the opening using my pencil. I will do the same on the second piece of cardstock, and I will now take my craft knife and something to protect my surface, because I am going to cut along the lines which are drawn in there. This is what we have right now. And now you remember that we created the tick marks. So let's start with the pair of marks that we created at the top of our cardstock piece. I will put my ruler right at that tick mark, and then I will lead it to the first score line, and I will cut from the mark up to the score line using a craft knife, just like so. So that's what we have, and I will do the same on the opposite side at the top. Now at the bottom, I will place the ruler right next to that tick mark on the flap, and I will then move it towards the second fold line, second from the bottom fold line, and I will cut. So this is what we have. And we need to do the same on the opposite side, just like so. That's the shape that we need to have. Now, you can use this cardstock piece as your template, and then just use your scissors in order to miter the corners of the bottom cardstock piece the same way. That's if you don't want to measure again. I think it's rather easy. Just make sure you don't move both of the cardstock pieces when you cut, and you hold them tight together. So that's what we have, and we can just fold along the score lines and crease everything nicely and set both of these pieces aside. And we'll move to the cardstock elements that look like this. So in the case of two of these, we'll need to trim some sections off of here, and it will go like so. So on this piece, I will have the fold, 1/2 inch fold, facing me. So it will be at the bottom, and I will cut at an angle from the bottom of the cardstock up to the score line, here and here. Then on the side flap, I will also miter the corners up to the score line, like so. And the next thing that I need to do is just to trim the remaining paper sections from the tabs that I'm going to create to the edges of the cardstock piece, just like so. So this is one, and I will do the same thing on the second one. Let's reinforce the score lines on both of them. We will connect this section to this section to get the shape that looks like so. Okay, so I will apply some glue, and I'm using just the liquid glue for connecting my pieces. If you want, you can use the double-sided tape, but for me the wet glue works okay. So I will just make sure that I center everything nicely and that I do not overlap the fold when I glue one piece to another. I will do the same thing here. Now, while both of these pieces are still flat, it's a good time to take the tiny pieces of the pattern paper that you prepared ahead of time and just glue them down here and here. So I will do that, and I will be back. And now it's done. This is what we have. Now it's time to get back to the 3 cardstock pieces that we also prepared and scored. And we're going to cut a few sections off here as well. So let me do one and show you what we need to have first of all. So the 1/2 inch flap is at the bottom of this paper piece, and the one which is 3/8 of an inch is at the top. So I'm just following the score lines that I have on the paper, and using my scissors in order to cut along those lines. So I'm cutting from the bottom up to the top score line like that, and then from the left and the right hand side of the paper I'm trimming this rectangular section off by once again following that score line as my guide. So this is what we have, our sort of T-shaped tabs that will eventually hold our whatever characters and stamped images you're going to use on your card. So you're going to fold those half an inch tabs along the score lines, and that would be all for now. You're not going to fold this section of the paper which you have there. Okay, so next what we do is this. You're going to take your paper piece that looks like that, and you're going to take one of the T tabs, and with the flap facing this way when it's folding in, you're going to slide it inside, and you're going to push it right to the edge of the slit. So it will look like this. And then onto this section of the tab, you're going to apply either a little bit of the wet glue or the double-sided tape, if that's what you decided to use for your project. But make sure that it's pulled all the way in up to the edge of that slit, and then you will just make sure that you glue the tab nicely, and that's how it will look like. So now you're going to fold your construction like so, with the tab being placed like that. You are going to apply some adhesive onto that tab, and I'm using art glitter glue, so I really don't need a lot of that in order to make sure that it sticks. So I'm going then to fold the tab in, and that's how it's going to look like once you're done. So that is our first section of the pop-up ready. Now you're going to create the same with the remaining piece. So that is our second piece. They will eventually be connected like so. So I am going now to place them down one next to another like that. I will apply some glue onto the tab, and then I will just make sure that I don't overlap the fold line on this paper piece with the paper from this section, and I will glue both of them together like so, making sure that I line them up nicely. I'm looking at the top line there, that everything is matching. Before we glue down the tab on this side, let's just make that additional, let's just glue down that additional tab for our characters in the center of the card. And for that, I will just use that remaining tab that I have in there. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to trim off the tab, the 1/2 inch tab, and I will apply adhesive to the back of my tab up to the score line, and I will use the tab here as my guide, and I will line both of them together. I will just make sure that I am gluing this down along this fold line of the base of the pop-up card. So this is how it's going to look. We are ready to seal everything closed together. So I will do it like that. I will apply some glue to the side tab right here, and also I will apply glue to this area of one of the bases, and then I will just connect both of them together like so, making sure that everything lines up just like that. Use your bone folder to burnish, and there you have it. Your pop-up base is ready. For adding the back panel, we're going back to our last piece of cardstock, and I remind you that it measures 6.5 by 3.5. So here you will decide on which side exactly you want to make more tick marks, but they will be 1.25 inch away from both right and left corners at the top. And I'm going to cut at an angle from the score line up to the tick mark. There we have it. And now I am going to, of course, reinforce the folds by burnishing them like so. And I'm going to glue down the paper piece to the central area of the cardstock. Now, to get the same angle without measuring too much on this piece of decorative paper, I will just put it on top of my cardstock, making sure that I have even borders on the 3 sides that I can see, which are not mitered. And then I will make some tick marks where I need the cut to be, and I will just cut using my scissors, or you can use your craft knife again, and this is how it will be. Now you are going to use this piece that you have already cut as your template for mitering the second piece of paper the same way. And there you have it. What's left is just to glue them down. The way you're going to attach it is very simple. It needs to go right into that base that we have created. So once you put it inside the base of the pop-up, let's do it once again. Okay, now it slides in, so it will slide right up to the edge of the so-called platform that you will have in the center. So once you do that, just make sure that you push it all the way in up to where it agrees to go, and then just use your pencil to draw a line in the back of that back panel and apply some glue, and once again just put it in, fold the card, and use your bone folder to burnish on top to make sure that it glues down. And there we have it. it's done and ready to be embellished. Since the rest of the process is rather self-explanatory, I will just speed it up on video, and you will see me embellish the card and glue down the cute cats and other elements onto the card. Just something that I wanted to mention before I begin. The retro TV die, I needed to chop off the legs because this way it will just be a little bit lower than on this card, and that's what I think will be better for this specific design. And it will glue better to the tab that we have designated for it. So that's just something that I wanted to say. And what else? Yeah, to accent some of the areas on the die cuts, I used the gold gel pen. Then I will piece a few layers of die cuts together in order to create the lamp, because as you can see right here, the base is golden, then the stand itself is of a black color, and then the top section is this, which is not part of the retro lamp die, but as I previously mentioned, that's the bag for popcorn from the popcorn die. So I will use it like this to create my lamp. Okay, the rest of the things I think is rather clear. So, okay, let's speed it up, and I will be back just for a couple of seconds to show you the finished card at the end of this video. Here is our finished card, and you can add more to it if you wish. Just some sequins, maybe some rhinestones, or another sentiment, whatever you prefer. My card is finished, and I hope you enjoyed that tutorial and you will give it a go. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Share your cards with us in the LLLC Facebook group, and see you soon. Bye.